This secret new iPhone feature will blow you away. Samsung just took over your iPhone. Literally. Hold up, is Apple buying Disney? And a major Apple upgrade has just been revealed. What's up, my name's Royce and welcome to the first video of Apple Next. I'm excited to launch this new channel and bring all the top Apple news to you guys, so make sure you subscribe to not miss out. Now let's talk about Apple. First up, it seems like Samsung has finally found a way to take over your iPhone. So Samsung has just released a web app that you can download to your iPhone that literally makes your phone look like a Samsung Android device. And I tested this out myself and it's actually really interesting. So once you download the web app to your home screen and you tap on it, and the way the interface is designed, it really looks like Android has taken over your iPhone, which is really trippy to actually kind of look at. And what I would say is actually really cool about this is the apps are actually interactive. So if you tap on the settings app, you can see a listing of all the settings. You can't click on every single one, but there are some that are highlighted. So if you tap on those, Samsung will give you information on what that certain setting will do if you had that device. And same with other apps like the Samsung Health app, you can get a preview of what that looks like. Even the messaging app, you get a little message there, that's an introduction. The one thing I will say about the message app is this person named Sam, I don't know who Sam is, but Sam kept texting me, okay, throughout the whole experience, and I needed Sam to chill, right? But as I was looking through all the different features, Sam just kept popping up being like, hey, check out this. Hey, since you're still here, check out that. Hey, hey, hey. And I'm just like, Sam, relax, relax, all right? Let me enjoy the experience. And from this, the most interactive feature is when you tap on the camera app, you are presented with a few videos that explain a lot of the camera features.
Hi, welcome to the Samsung Galaxy camera.
So on the photo screen, it'll play this really interesting video of this girl. It's her birthday. I think this is who Sam is. I think this is the person who's been texting me this whole time through this experience. And she just talks about how it's her birthday and she's so happy that she has a Samsung to take all these amazing photos of her birthday. And if you swipe over to the video section, it'll play a video talking about all the great video features. They even detail the zoom in feature where you can zoom in to the moon and take a picture of the moon. And I thought that was a pretty cool and creative way to market your features to somebody who is not familiar with them, like myself. On one end, being an Apple user, I actually think this is a pretty creative way to be like, hey guys, look at us. This is what we got, right? But also as an Apple user, I feel like the actual features that would convince Apple users to switch from iOS to Android are not present. Because at that point, you're pretty much telling me, hey, check out the UI. This is how your phone could look. And from that perspective, I'm like, okay, I know Apple gets a lot of flack for just having a very simple interface, but what I'm seeing from this website is not going to convince me to switch over to that interface, right? But I know there's a lot more customization options that you can do, but unfortunately, obviously because of limitations, you can't do that. Now, for people who may be on the fence, who have an iPhone, but they're like, should I got an Android? I don't know. This could potentially sway them, right? Especially how hard they went with the photo marketing and the fact they did it full on videos, like breaking down each feature. I think that's really cool. And that could be enough to convince somebody to be like, yo, okay, I missed out on that camera. I want to zoom in and take a picture of the moon. You know, I don't know. I commend Samsung for coming up with this. Obviously, we know they love poking fun at Apple and trying to make people feel stupid for having Apple products. I don't think this is really the W they were thinking it might be, but I give them props for trying. Next up, more leaks have surfaced regarding this new iPhone 15 feature, and here's why you might be missing out on it. So word on the street is Apple will be releasing a new upgraded lens that's going to come to the new iPhone 15. They're calling it a periscope lens, and to put it simply, through some light reflection wizardry, it will allow you to zoom in and supposedly drastically reduce blurriness, so your photos and videos will be a lot crisper than they were before. Now this would be a big feature because I think we could all agree that blurriness from zooming in is very frustrating, and it's been a frustrating thing on phones since phones have been able to take pictures and zoom in. Now the problem is, with this being a new feature, it looks like Apple's going to save it for their biggest and most priciest model, the iPhone 15 Pro Max. Yeah, I know, it sucks. Especially the past couple of years, I feel like Apple's been doing really well, at least with the Pro models, having parity between the smaller and bigger model. And if including this new lens in the most expensive phone wasn't frustrating enough, it also turns out that with this new lens will come an increased camera bump. Now I don't know about you guys, but I miss the days before the iPhone 6 where the backs of iPhones were just fully flush, the camera was there, but it didn't get in the way of the design. And I get that as we want technology to improve, something had to give. And for Apple, in order to compete, they felt it was more important to include better camera lenses, even though that meant sacrificing design. And then when I saw this render by Shrimp Apple Pro on Twitter, it just kind of confirmed how I was feeling about it. Even though the design still looks nice, it still looks sleek, to see that increased camera bump, I gotta be honest, I'm just not a fan of these lenses getting bigger and bigger. I understand the quality's gotta get better. I'd probably rather them keep making the phones thicker to compensate for that versus still trying to keep like a nice thin looking design and then just have it like curve out where that lens is going to be. But that's just my opinion. But like with all these rumors, we're just gonna have to wait and see what Apple actually does come the fall when they announce these new iPhone 15 models. On paper, it always sounds like, that's not a cool upgrade, man. That's gonna be basic, I don't care. And then the keynote, they're like, look at the periscope lens, you can zoom into someone's pimple. And we're gonna be like, oh, give me, take it off. And I mean, if they're trying to compete with Samsung, they better show themselves zooming into the moon, because apparently that's what's hot right now, zooming into the moon. Next up, is Apple buying Disney? Well, according to some analysts, they actually think this could be a possibility. Now, this wouldn't be the first time that this rumor has been swimming around. I would say probably since Apple really came back in the early 2000s. But now with the state of all the streaming services, Apple's got their own streaming service, Disney's got their own stuff going on, this coming back around makes things a little bit more interesting. Now, for those who think this rumor is completely out of left field, Apple and Disney, they do share a lot of history together. And it starts with Steve Jobs back in the 80s buying this computer division off of George Lucas, which spun and turned into Pixar. Yes, that's right, Pixar Animation. And from there, Pixar worked with Disney to start making animated feature films, with Toy Story being the first animated feature film made by Pixar, distributed by Disney. And that relationship just grew and grew until Disney ultimately bought Pixar, I believe, in 2006. And this also really isn't that crazy considering that Steve Jobs and CEO of Disney, Bob Iger, are like besties. And Bob Iger even himself said that if it wasn't for Steve Jobs' passing, that a merger actually probably would have happened, or they would have had serious conversations regarding it. And swinging things back into the streaming wars, every company out there, they are fighting for our attention, for our eyes, for our subscriptions, right? And that includes Apple TV Plus. People love the content that's on Apple TV Plus. The problem is there's just not enough of it. Now, there's a lot more than when it first started, when there were only like 3 shows, the morning show and like C. But the general consensus is that people love the shows on Apple TV Plus. But their subscription count is very low. They're pretty much at the bottom when it comes to all the top heavy hitters. So when you bring that fact into the picture, it kind of does make you think like, okay, if things don't work out the way Apple wants it to do with their streaming service, what's their next move? Are they just gonna give up on it completely? Or are they gonna start looking at some of these other companies like, oh, you know what? We may need to buy you, because we got the money. And with Apple and Disney already having that great relationship, it starts to connect some dots. But how does that actually help Apple, and how does it actually help Disney? Obviously with Apple, they would be acquiring literally the greatest IPs ever imaginable. And in Disney, they're getting a very strong partner who knows how to handle distribution, and they got the money to literally back any crazy idea those Imagineers come up with. But take the entertainment apart away from it, now Apple is in charge of Disney World in Disneyland. Like, what kind of world is that? Not to mention all the bajillion other businesses that Disney owns. Like, just look at this chart of all the businesses Disney owns. This is literally insane. And then when you look at the chart of all the businesses that Apple has acquired, they were very product-based maneuvers. Bringing Disney into their plate, there's just so much more they would have to manage. Where would they sell some parts of Disney off? Who's acquiring Disney World? Like, I'm sure a lot of people would love to acquire Disney World, but then does it stay Disney World? Would it become some other world? It just doesn't make sense why Apple would bring on all that extra baggage if really all they wanted was just to have a couple TV shows extra to throw onto their service. And also, would the United States of America allow this merger to happen? Because as much as I love Apple, the one thing I don't think I want to see is Apple being in charge of every single thing that we love and hold dear in our lives. So as explosive of a deal that this would make, I just think there are way too many moving parts on Disney's end to where it just would not be beneficial for Apple to get involved with the bajillions of things that Disney's got going on. And seeing an Apple logo pop up before the next Avengers movie, I just think would be weird. And next up, it looks like Apple just invented the iPod. Again. Okay, no, they didn't invent the iPod again, but Apple has gone on a patent filing spree. And the patent I found the most interesting was them experimenting with ways to include a touchscreen on an AirPods Pro case. And when you look at these sample renders, you can kind of start to see the iPod resemblance, right? And with these filings, according to Mac Rumors, Apple envisions controlling Apple Music via the case through the use of capacitive touchscreen with a GUI that also provides tactile feedback, allowing the user to control audio playback, adjust volume, favorite songs, and interact with their music in other ways without necessarily looking at the case to do so. They go on to say, in another embodiment, the case responds to specific gestures such as taps and swipes to navigate on-screen content and invoke Siri. In one scenario, Apple describes how squeezing the case could even be a way to change the listening mode of the AirPods, likely referring to noise cancellation and transparency. By integrating an interactive touchscreen display in such a way, the patent argues deficiencies associated with user control of wireless headphones are reduced or eliminated. Now, this last quote I find the most interesting, and I think is the actual root behind why they're even doing these filings. Because as cool as all the gestures and taps that we use to control our AirPods, it could be frustrating a lot of times for a lot of people, including myself. And also for people who may have limited movement, this could be very difficult to actually navigate the AirPods and really use them the way they're supposed to be used. So including some type of control, touchscreen, whatever it may be, right there on the case, I can see how this would be beneficial for a lot of people. And lastly, we gotta talk about the new MacBook Air that seems to be right around the corner. So as we get closer to the summer and Apple's Worldwide Developer Conference in June, people are starting to wonder what's going on with the new MacBook Air. According to the timeline, an upgrade seems to be imminent, but the timing of it and what the upgrade would actually be has people very invested, because it looks like with this new model, the MacBook Air is finally gonna get a screen size bump. If the rumors are true, Apple's looking at releasing a 13-inch MacBook Air model and a 15-inch MacBook Air model. Now, on one end, this kind of goes against what the MacBook Air is supposed to represent, right? It's supposed to be the small, sleek model, very portable, right? You could just pick up, go, be productive on it, throw it in your bag. But there has been an increase in people wanting bigger screen laptops. And right now, if you want to get a Mac, the only option is going with the 16-inch MacBook Pro. And if you're actually going to push the MacBook Pro for what it's supposed to be used for, that's great. And with the 16-inch MacBook Pro starting at like $2,500, if you're just buying it for the screen real estate and not taking advantage of all the power, you're wasting a lot of that money, honestly. So with that mindset, Apple bringing in a larger MacBook Air, which I would assume is meant to still keep the price down compared to a MacBook Pro, but have that bigger screen, I feel like you're gonna start seeing more people actually go for that model versus getting a MacBook Pro. So right now, if you wanna buy a M1 MacBook Air, you're looking at paying $1,000, or if you want the M2 chip, you're looking at $1,200. So we're looking at about a $200 difference between the M1 and the M2. So now throwing in a 15-inch model, I would assume that they would probably increase that maybe by another $200 or $300. So you'd probably be looking at a price point about $1,500, which for a lot of people is still very expensive, but $1,500 versus $2,500 for a bunch of features you're not even gonna take advantage of, it starts to make more sense. Now, the other factor that's gonna decide price is if Apple goes with their new M3 chip that they've been working on, or keep the current M2 chip. Because as the reports stand right now, it looks like it could be 50-50. And when they decide to release this MacBook Air will play a big part as well. And if we're gonna go by what Apple did at last year's WWDC, where they announced the M2 chip along with new laptops, I feel like that's probably what they're gonna do, especially with it being not a redesign, but you're introducing a new model, right? This is gonna be a bigger screen. They're gonna hype the mess out of it. So I feel like they'd wanna do that in a keynote where they can really put light on it versus just releasing a press release and it's just like, hey guys, bigger model, MacBook Air, yeah, cool. But I will say, if you are looking to buy a new laptop sometime soon and the MacBook Air has been an option, I would say hold on, just wait a couple more months, see what Apple does, because even if you wanna shell out for the new model, then that's a great way to go. Or wait until it's released and then save some money once the older models get reduced in price. That'll also be a great way to go as well. And that's all the Apple news I have for you guys today. If you liked the video, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.